lovely people. How are you all today? I hope you're well. I'm very well, thank you. I kind of don't know where to start. A year ago today, I sat here with my last paycheck. It seems absolutely bonkers now. A whole year later, and this year has whizzed by. I don't know where it's gone. I've been thinking the last couple of days about sort of going back a year and remembering how nervous, how excited, how I was just sort of every emotion about leaving work and trying this year without any money. Well, without a wage. And I sort of, in my mind back then, I'm sure I chatted about it in the video as well, I sort of had it in my mind, this not quite planned out year, but I was thinking about all the things I wanted to do with my year. And the fact is, it didn't turn out anything like I thought it would or hoped it would. And the reality is, I think, and actually loads of you, sorry, I'm kind of thinking thoughts and then not saying them out loud, but a lot of you at the time who, for instance, some of you had retired, some had taken early retirement, were giving me various bits of advice. And although I never saw this as retirement, and I still don't, because I still feel like I'm working, the biggest thing that you were all saying was, it's going to take you at least a year to adjust. And I was thinking, how's it going to take me a year to adjust and not having to get up at 4:30 in the morning, go and do a 13, 14 hour shift without a lunch break, come home exhausted. I'm going to adjust to not doing that in a day. But it really has taken a year to adjust. And I don't think I've finished doing my adjusting either. So going back to that last day, sitting here with the paycheck in mind, I was looking for it a minute ago actually in my bureau. I thought, I'm going to get my paycheck out and have a look at it, but I can't find it. I must have just put it with all my tax stuff, never mind. But yeah, I was kind of imagining, I'm going to have time to read, because reading is something I love. I mean, obviously I've stacks and stacks of books all around me. I was imagining I'd have time to read. I really wanted to have time to write, to kind of explore some of my art again in terms of painting. Obviously, I knew the garden was going to take up quite a bit of time, but all these things I thought that I would have time to do, and none of it happened. None of it happened. It's crazy. Now, a big chunk of that, I'll talk about this year coming in a minute and why I'm looking forward to it, but a big chunk of it, if you think from May, June, July, August, September and into October. So for nearly 6 months, pretty much as soon as I started my year off, I ended up embroiled in this situation with my great aunt where, I mean, I was doing more hours with sorting out her care than I'd ever done as a nurse. And also because she lives quite far away from me, it was a 6-hour commute, or 6-hour round trip each time, which was absolutely exhausting. And it took a huge amount of my time up, and I'm glad I was there for her. Don't begrudge that at all, but in some ways it felt like I'd gone from a full-time nursing job to a full-time nursing job, and obviously that situation couldn't go on because it was costing me a fortune on the trains and the time I was getting exhausted, but also I just couldn't give her the 24-hour care she needed. And push came to shove when I got the date for my knee surgery, that we finally had a proper talk together, and she finally accepted, realised whatever, that I could not be her full-time carer. So we started to get care in place for her at home, which is great. And it was such a relief to me because it means that, yes, I still visit with her. Yes, I still manage a lot of her care, But I know when I'm not there that she's safe, that she's warm, she's fed, she's clean, all those things that are just on a most basic level, all of that's in place, which is a huge relief. But of course I bounced from her care to then having my knee op and having pretty much the most of December just out of action, and gradually in January sort of getting a little bit more active again. So in many ways, I'm not surprised that it feels like last year flew by, because actually a lot of it was sort of out of my control, and it wasn't the things I'd planned to do and the things I wanted to do necessarily. And so I've come to the end of the year thinking, oh, well, I didn't do this and I didn't do that and I didn't do the other. But as we've come into 2018, in the last couple of months in particular, I think I felt an interesting shift in myself. So I did sort of make a promise to myself in January that I needed to stop procrastinating, because I'm a huge procrastinator. I'm quite organised, but I do kind of, look, if it's not the garden, I'll put it off forever. But I sort of made, I had a little chat with myself to say, right, come on, what were some of those things you wanted to do? So as you know by now, I've been sewing like a little demon for the last few weeks, getting loads of bunting made for my shop, which hopefully, watch this space, I will tell you, but hopefully will open in a couple of weeks' time online on my website. But it's not just bunting, it's all sorts of other little bits and pieces that I'm picking up in sales here and there, cleaning things up, repairing things, getting things gorgeous again for your delectation. And I'm really happy I've started to do that, because I'd made a decision. Sorry, my thoughts are all over the place today. It's a big deal, this having a year without a wage, and I've done it, and it's been brilliant. And I've loved it, mostly. And I want to carry on. But to carry on realistically, I acknowledge that I do need to have some money coming in, because I have got savings for emergency, but I don't really want to rely on them. Just for simple things like, I need another pair of trainers. So that was why I was thinking along the lines of, right, what can I do? What can I make? What can I sell to just bring in a few pennies? Not a huge amount, but enough to just keep me ticking over, so that I can carry on as I am. I think one of the biggest things this year that's really surprised me is that I really don't feel like I've wanted for anything. There have been so few occasions when I've thought, if only I had some money. Occasions such as just a few times when, say, friends have been organising a night out and I've thought, I haven't got any money, can't do it, can't come, sorry. Or if I've got friends visiting and I think, I'd love to take you out and treat you. So just every now and again, I've sort of been reminded that I can't spend. I have to think twice about every single penny I spend. But for the most part, I haven't needed to. It's been a huge surprise. And it makes me now think, what was I spending my money on? I mean, in fairness, every time my wage packet came in, a huge chunk of it used to go into savings, and I used to overpay my mortgage all the time, which is how I managed to get myself mortgage free by the end of my 40s. Yay, thank goodness. And that has been the major enabler for me to say goodbye to having a wage. If I still had a mortgage, it wouldn't happen. I don't have a mortgage because I've spent years not having holidays, not being daft, buying handbags and shoes every 2 minutes. All those things that accumulate over the sort of months, years, that's all gone into overpaying the mortgage to get rid of it. Yay, so happy. One of the other big surprises was with the garden, how, I mean, I love it. Of course I love it. You guys know I love it. But it did feel a little bit more pressurised last year and this year with some seed failures than ever before. And it absolutely became my priority like it never has been before. Beforehand, it was always a total pleasure. And if I got vegetables out of it, brilliant. Whereas last year it became, I have to get vegetables because this is my food. So I tried to put more stuff into the garden. I tried to get more veg into a smaller space than ever before. And it worked really well. And at the moment, I'm kind of down to rations now. Beans, tomatoes, onions, squash, that's what I'm living on. And a few bits of greens from the garden still. But yeah, it's weird to feel the garden was a pressure rather than pure pleasure. And I'm freaking out a bit at the moment because my tomatoes just don't want to grow. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that's a major, major staple for me. But having said that, the fact that I was able to still get the garden seen to with all the backwards and forwards with my great aunt, but more than that in the autumn I was able to get everything stored. Because in previous years, when I've had gluts of stuff, I just give tons of stuff away, bags and bags of veg away to friends, which is lovely. But this year I knew that I had to, or last year, this year I knew that I had to get everything preserved and stored somewhere or other because it was going to be my food forever. Well, for a year anyway. So I've learnt just how crazy autumn is. It's always been crazy with preserving, but last autumn even more so. Anyway, going into this year of 2018, as we sort of went into January, February, I just knew that actually I want to carry on. I can carry on. I'm sure there's a way for me to carry on as I am. And I decided pretty early in this year that, yeah, I was going to carry on. I wasn't going to go back to nursing. I don't, in all seriousness, think I can with the state of my knees. I suppose it'd be possible to find, actually I don't know whether it would be possible to find a nursing job that's sitting down most of the day. It's kind of sitting down and nursing, that doesn't go together, does it? But yeah, I decided pretty early on in sort of January, February that I really wanted to see if I can carry on for another year, which was also the thinking behind I need to think about doing something, a little cottage industry of my own, just for those few extra pennies for bits and bobs as we go along. So I think going into this year, sort of going back to what a lot of you said about retirement taking, just move my leg position, going into retirement and it taking a year to adjust, truly I kind of, there's so many ways I don't think I have adjusted yet, and this year's going to be more telling, I think, because I have to really start to think about the balance of working, because I'm working, the sewing is work, managing the garden, managing sort of, family things, managing some free time, because what I haven't done yet, what I haven't managed to master is a day off. It just doesn't happen. I'm not very good at sitting and doing nothing, so I would really, really, really like this year to have a day, a week maybe, where I say to myself, sit on the sofa and read a book. So time management is going to be my big thing for this coming year. I think I know what I'm doing in the garden, just about, and I think I've got a good knowledge of how much I need to grow in order to sustain me for the year. So that's okay. I've got some good plans for the sewing. That's all okay. But what I'd really, really, really like to get on top of this year is having some free time, feeling less pressured about everything, and just kind of adjusting to this new life and saying, well, actually this is it. This is no longer an experiment for a year. This is maybe it. Maybe this is it forever. Gosh, that'd be exciting, wouldn't it? So thank you to everyone who shared their thoughts and advice with me a year ago about what to maybe expect. There have been some really down times too where I've missed work like mad. I haven't missed the pressure and the stress, but I've missed my colleagues, I've missed the families and the kids, of course, but also a sort of a sense of purpose, maybe. I don't think that's quite right to put it like that. I do have a sense of purpose every day, you know. I grow my own food. That is my raison d'etre. That is my sense of purpose every morning when I get up. It's like, how am I going to grow my food this year? I think more a sense of purpose sort of in a more socially accepted way in terms of, so for instance, you know, and people say to me, what do you do? When I meet, say, someone new on the allotments, what do you do? I'm still in the habit of saying, oh, well, I used to be a nurse, but I'm taking some time off. Because I don't know what to say to people. I just don't know what to say. Someone says to me, what do you do? Well, I grow vegetables and I sow bunting. So it's kind of, I'm still not sure about that one. I still don't. I do have a sense of purpose each day, but I wonder sometimes if the world at large sees me as having a sense of purpose or having any purpose in this world. Some people don't matter, of course. You know, I think one of the ways that's reflected is, for example, I get loads of people just asking me to do stuff for them, usually with the proviso, oh, well, you're free this week, aren't you? You don't work anymore. You could do this, couldn't you? Oh, can you do this for me? Can you look after this for me? Could you... It's quite... I get quite upset about it at times, that people assume, or the way I'm spoken to, it's almost like they're inferring that I sit on my backside and do nothing all day. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I'm working harder and more hours now than I ever have done before, just to survive and keep going. And I think that's the big thing when you go without a wage. You know, in some ways, and I'm not doing down my job, because my job was hard. And those girls who are still on that ward doing the job I used to do, you know, massive praise to them. But in some ways, it's easier to go to a job, do your job, earn your money, get your paycheck, spend it, than it is to not have a job, get up every morning and work out how you're going to survive for that week. So I have been grumpy a few times when people have made the assumption that I'm free to do stuff for them. I'm free to pick up the pieces. I'm free to, you know, through all that stuff with my great aunt, and I was trying to work with social services in her area, they were all like, well, you don't have a job, you can look after her. I was like, that's, in theory, yes, but I can't just... Anyway, that did irk me. And I've had a few people have said, oh, you're so lucky because you can do the garden every day. No, I can't. I don't have time to do the garden every single day. It's absurd. And also I can't anyway with my knees. But yeah, that's something else I'm adjusting to, and I still haven't quite adjusted to, is how to say no to people and how to let people understand who, you know, don't see my videos and haven't followed my journey, that actually just because I'm not a nurse anymore doesn't mean I sit at home on my backside all day just waiting for someone to phone and ask me for their help. I sound quite bitter about that, don't I? I don't mean to. It's not bitterness, it's just, I guess folk just don't realise and don't understand. Never mind. So, onwards and upwards. 1 year done. Done. I survived. I didn't end up in the poorhouse. I fed myself perfectly well. I've had occasional treats of, you know, popping off to my local and enjoying a pint with mates. Not anywhere near as often as I used to, but often enough to keep me happy. And well, I'm healthy, my garden is thriving, hopefully my new little business will thrive, I'm happy doing it. It can be done. So I know that there are quite a few of you who, as my first few months went by, were finishing work, some through early retirement, some through voluntary redundancies, what have you. I hope you've managed, and I hope you've felt that you're not on your own. I hope you've felt that we're kind of all, managing this together. You guys have given so much advice and support over this year. It's been brilliant. Sometimes I've read something and I've thought, no, that won't be me. I don't need that advice. Thank you very much. And it's stayed in there. And then a couple of months down the line, I've heard your voice in my head and I thought, you were right. Thank you. So I've massively appreciated all of that. I can't wait to see what another year brings. I think I'm possibly more nervous and more excited now than I was a whole year ago. Partly because I know a little bit more of what to expect, and partly because there's so much that I've got no idea what to expect. But I think with the kind of resilience I've built up over this year, I think whatever's thrown at me in this coming year, I've got a feeling I'll deal with it okay. I hope so. So, there we are. 1 year down, how many to go? I'm not sure. My cup is now empty. Dribbling down my chin, so I need to go and refill it. So I'm going to say cheerio to you all for now. I hope whatever stage you're at in life, that you're making the most of it. Whether you're still working, put some of that money aside and get your mortgage paid off. Whether you've retired at normal age or taken early retirement, however you're doing it, whatever you're doing, make the most of every day. Try to have some fun every day if you can. Some days are tough, but even on the toughest days, there's always going to be one thing that's either beautiful or good or funny. Make some time to find it. I will see you all again really soon, I hope. But in the meantime, take care, everyone.